CIO Dimensions, another new episode of Innovation Talk. I'm Radhika Nalayam, Managing Editor for CIO Dimension. Today we have with us Mr. Hemanta Banerjee, Vice President for Public Cloud Data Services at Rackspace Technology. I think it's a great opportunity to talk to him because Hemanta is a data and analytics specialist with over 20 years of experience in the industry. Before Rackspace, he was the founder and chief architect of Singapore-based Just Analytics, which was perhaps one of the early players in the analytics and business intelligence space, and was later acquired by Rackspace. And of course, that's how he became part of Rackspace. Prior to founding Just Analytics in 2011, he held leadership roles in consulting, sales, and product management for companies like SAP, Oracle, and Hyperion, which is another business intelligence player and was later acquired by Oracle in 2007. So very interesting journey Hemanta has had. Today, Hemanta will be talking to us about generative AI, its unique data challenges, and the significance of data literacy among enterprises. Welcome, Hemanta. Thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
Thanks, Radhika. It's my pleasure being on the show.
Great, wonderful. So, Hemanta, let's start off the conversation by the most talked about topic, which is generative AI today. There is so much buzz around this technology in the enterprise space. And as a data and analytics veteran, I want to kind of understand what are your thoughts about what this buzz really holds and what really lies behind all the noise around generative AI.
Sure. I mean, it's a very interesting point. So I have been working on analytics even before it was analytics, right? We started with OLAP, and then it became BI and big data, and now we're all talking about AI and machine learning. I think we are at a pivotal point in the evolution of the technology, because it is, for the first time with generative AI and the improvements that have happened with deep learning, we are at a point where a normal user can understand how to apply AI in the context of the work that they were doing. And they can experiment with the benefits on their own. With ChatGPT, what has happened is everybody is able to go in and experience how they can leverage AI to improve their productivity. And that then that kind of opens up their mind and translates into them thinking about how I can leverage similar things in the context of the job that I'm doing. Whereas in the past, what used to happen is you would have these people sitting in a corner developing reports or developing models, and it all seemed like kind of a black box, art or whatever, and a normal human being could just consume it. Whereas now a normal human being is actually producing the content. So that's where the inflection happened with ChatGPT. And what we are seeing in the marketplace is people are, even though they might not know exactly how to apply it, they're quite sure that they want to explore how to apply it. So the interest has really gone up. Experimentation has gone up significantly, and through this, obviously, a lot of innovation is happening in the business world. And those innovations, if you give it like 24, 36 months, those innovations will start to get ingrained into how we work.
Right.
So that's in my mind, the real revolution, or the reason why everybody is so excited, is because of that, right? It will fundamentally change how we do our job. It's kind of like the internet moment in 1999, 2000, where we fundamentally changed how we work. This is kind of a similar moment in time.
Yeah, so that's a radical shift, and from what you said, it's more like a democratization of AI, right? It's
Correct.
as you said, it's reaching out to the masses,
Correct.
where people understand the importance, the criticality of AI. And there is, of course, there is a lot of negative, hype around this technology and what it could potentially do. It could take over jobs, and all of that is also happening. What do you think about that aspect of the technology?
I think the way I look at it, you can really deploy AI in three models within your organization. So you have the classical co-pilot model, where the job of the co-pilot is really assisting you to be more productive, right? So instead of you, it's like calculator instead of slide rule, or doing the math on paper. So it's really, you still have to figure out what you want to do, and what the co-pilot can do is really make that process really simple. So for example, for one of our customers, we deployed a data privacy officer bot. They data privacy, GDPR, uh, data management, those are really sensitive topics today, especially if you're operating globally. And they have a very small data privacy team, and the entire organization, it's a Fortune 500 organization. The entire organization, every time they would run a campaign, collect customer data, contracts, all of them would then go to the data privacy team to ask questions about how to do, how to handle PII information and so on, right? Now, what they did was they took all of their corpus of the standard operating procedures, the rules, the policies, the laws, and so on, and we implemented a generative AI Q&A bot on top of that, so that as a marketing person, now I don't need to talk to somebody to figure out what should I do if I'm going to run a pop-up event in a mall. I can go to the bot, I can figure out what are the laws, what are the policies, what are my organization's rules in terms of data collection. All of that, I can get that information in context directly out of the system. So that's the kind of the classic co-pilot kind of a model, right? The second is autopilot, which is essentially, the AI can really make decisions in terms of what needs to be done, but it leaves the final control to the human to actually push the button to make it happen. We have experimented with that in Rackspace. So if we used to have a few hundred people providing help desk support. So we are a $3.2 billion organization, 8,000 people, 7,000 some people, and we had a huge help desk team, as with any large organization, to provide IT support for us internally. So what we have done is a number of those operations, we have created bots around that using AI that can essentially decide what the next action should be depending on the issue. And then we have been able to kind of reduce the number of people supporting it. We have been able to increase the satisfaction, the turnaround time it takes to close issues. We have increasing productivity in that manner. So that's the second mode, which is the autopilot. And the third is what you hear, the singularity problem, and self-driving
Yeah.
cars, and so on. I think maybe we will get there, maybe we won't get there. I'm not very sure about that. But I think the what businesses can really leverage today is the co-pilot model, because you are really enabling Radhika to be more productive. So instead of spending 8 hours or 12 hours doing something, Radhika can finish that in 6 hours and then have a much better quality of life, spend more time in value-added activities instead of doing research, doing reading through a lot, hundreds of pages on the internet. Your research can be done in 15 minutes as opposed to 4 hours. So I think that's the benefit that organizations have, is to really raise productivity and move people up the value chain, which is going to increase the output of what they are doing, which will increase wages, and that overall will have a positive impact on the society. That's kind of my view on where we are today.
Great, great. A wonderful insight that gives us a lot of clarity. Now, coming to more specific aspects of AI and data, Hemanta, we know it's important to find synergies between AI and data discipline to be able to get the most out of both. But that's really not the case in most enterprises, right? We see inadequate data and lack of quality when it comes to the available data, and
Yeah.
many such issues that come in the way of
Yeah.
AI project.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the most critical data challenges that generative AI is now throwing at
Yeah.
organizations, and some of the data pain points that are very unique to generative AI? If you could
Yeah.
talk about that.
So, so you have two classes of problems, right? So you have the age-old problem, and then you have some new problems because of generative AI. So the
Correct.
age-old problems are, quality of data, completeness of data, even accessibility of data, right? So there are large pockets of the organization where, there is little or no means to pull information through with right frequency, with the right quality, in a timely kind of manner. So that has always been there back from the days when I used to build dashboards, and that's a problem we are evolving, we're improving,
Mm.
and and we need to continue to fix that. So that problem does not go away. Now, what happens though is, with AI becoming an integral part of business processes, it just puts a lot of focus in solving that problem. Because back in the day, what used to happen is, I would use my data lake or data warehouse to create a report that somebody sees once a week. So instead of, or even once a day, and even if it's a couple of hours late, it's not such a big deal, because my business is running independently, and I'm just monitoring the business using the report. So if I get the data a couple of hours late, it's inconvenient, but it is not, it does not stop my business. Now, with AI getting embedded as part of the business process, if you have challenges in data, if it is not production quality, now your business will stop. Your ability to take orders, your ability to manufacture, your ability to meet customers timeline, those will stop, which puts a much greater emphasis on solving those kind of fundamental platform problems right off the bat, right? So that's kind of the first set of challenges, is things that have been there, which I think is getting a lot more focus, because it is an integral part of the process now. The second is the new issues that have come about, right? Because generative AI, and some of it is because of the buzz, and some of it is because of the simplicity of how you can use it in the context of your applications. There is the whole challenge of things like model misuse, right? Am I using the right model? Am I looking at the responses of the model, monitoring it, ensuring that there's no bias, it's fairness, it's used the right training data to train it, so that the outputs are what a human would take in a similar situation. So there's that whole aspect of responsible use of AI, and having the right oversight framework, because again, we are embedding it into a business process, and people will blindly accept the outputs of that in many cases, and therefore, that additional level of oversight becomes super important. So that, in my mind, those are kind of the two areas that we need to focus on from a problem statement perspective.
Okay. That and it's also very positive to see responsible AI becoming a huge, huge priority for
Right.
the makers as well as the users of generative AI. So,
Correct.
what do you think are the key steps and best practices to kind of ensure successful generative AI implementation within enterprises? And to add to that, are these best practices or steps anyway different from what organizations have been typically following in the traditional machine learning models?
Yeah. So, I mean, yes and no. So I think the practices are the same. It's, we are not talking about completely conceptualizing something from scratch, because we are in the new generative AI world. I think the governance and responsible use of data and AI, as a practice, has evolved over the last couple of years, has really matured significantly in the last, I would say, in the last 3 or 4 years. I think we have a reasonable view of what does it take to run a production system and have the right oversight, so that we are using the data responsibly. The part that we need to the part that organizations need to do is ensure that they are bringing in the right. It's not a technology problem, it's a governance problem that needs to bring in the stakeholders across the organization. So you need stakeholders from business, who are the beneficiaries of using AI within the organization. You need folks from areas like products and so on, where these will get embedded and it'll change how their products behave and operate. And then you need people from the technology side of things who can give guidance on what capabilities are available from the platform perspective, whether it is hyperscalers or private cloud, as to what capabilities are available for us to apply, or build those responsible practices as part of the process. So if it's a technology-led practice, what will happen is, the ultimate consumers won't understand the implications of their decisions, which will have a negative impact. So that's kind of one major part of it, right? And so from our perspective, when we are working with customers, so if you look at FAIR, which is a new practice that we had developed that we launched this year on the responsible use of AI within organization, the the first activity that we typically engage with our customers is called an ideation session. And the ideation workshop essentially brings in all the relevant stakeholders and looks at it from three different perspectives. The first is kind of the business case perspective. Why is do nothing not an option? What is the
Mm.
incremental value that you're going to get out of it, and does it justify the sustained investment that will take over the next couple of years to make it a reality, right? The second is, what is the technology and the maturity of the technology for us to do it today? So
Right.
while it might be a good use case, huge ROI, but you have to remember that it is still fairly new. Things are, we every day we are getting new drops, from OpenAI and Stable Diffusion and stuff like that, right? So what is the maturity of the technology for us to achieve something that can be used by end users or non-AI people without having to worry about the overall quality of the output, right? And the third is what kind of guardrails we need to put in, both from a technology perspective and from a process perspective, to make sure that as we are increasing the use of AI for that particular business process, we don't go too much on the other side and we miss out on the red flags that eventually come out. So we kind of create this comprehensive map, and we have this and rate on what are the actions that need to happen across all three dimensions.
Mm.
And
Okay.
from there, we then go into like a MVP phase where we are validating the technology, validating the guardrails, uh, doing the change management from a process perspective, and then eventually incrementally bring that into practice. So sometimes going slow gets you a faster output. In my mind, implementation of AI is one of those things that you need to go slow to go fast.
Right. That's fantastic. Hemanta, you touched upon generative AI moving to the masses, and that brings us to the topic of data literacy, and it is something that you have very personally been advocating. I think I read somewhere that your data team is kind of more than 85% AI certified and all of that. Could you talk about the criticality of data literacy in today's AI era? And do you think organizations are taking it seriously at this stage?
So, so two things, right? For responsible use of AI in an organization, everybody who is getting touched by AI needs to understand that I am using AI, so there could be aspects that I need to be aware of, so that those red flags can be raised early enough and things can be corrected, right? If I'm not aware, then I do not know what to watch out for, and therefore cannot raise that. So it comes from kind of a very fundamental this thing, right? So data literacy becomes important, and especially awareness of AI becomes awareness of AI, where AI can be applied, how
Hmm.
AI is applied, may not be the technical details, but how AI is applied in the context of a business process, and what are the potential pitfalls. I think getting that knowledge across the organization is super important. So if you look at Rackspace, for example, when we started FAIR, we, um, you know, we created three levels of enablement or literacy or certification badges. We call it badges. So we created three levels of badges in the organization. So we have AI ready, AI business, and then AI expert, right? Um,
Levels, is it?
three different levels in the organization, right? So three different badges that you can get. So
Mm.
AI ready is essentially everybody in the organization needs to be aware of what is AI, what it can do,
Mm.
what are the typical challenges, what are the benefits, and so on, right? So our goal as Rackspace is to literally get everybody in the organization be AI ready, because we are using AI quite deeply within the various business processes within Rackspace. So whether it is sales, we are using AI to to recommend to the seller what is the next best product that we should be selling to the customers. We are using it for customer service, for automated responses to our customers. We are using it internally for knowledge management. So AI, getting AI ready, the entire organization is kind of our goal. And if I'm not wrong, we are roughly at around 50% today in terms of AI ready within the organization. Then we have AI business, which is anybody who is going to be defining the requirements or making changes to a business process using AI, needs to go at a higher level and needs to understand and pass a course. So there are a couple of LinkedIn and Udemy courses that we have identified, and they need to pass those courses so that they understand the responsible use of AI. So that then, when they are working with the techies, they are working at the same wavelength, and there is no information gap between the tech folks and the product owners, for lack of a better word, right? So they need to be AI business so that they can define the right requirements and the for the technology guys to actually data scientists to actually work on it. And then we have AI expert, which is kind of my team. So my goal is to get my entire team to be AI experts, because again, whether you're a data engineer, whether you're a DBA, ultimately in majority of the cases, our day-to-day work is being eventually consumed by a machine learning model as part of AI training and so on. So having that context of how somebody is going to use what I'm delivering makes us more effective in how we plan our projects, how we do our sprints,
Right.
what kind of features we focus on, and so on. So AI expert is kind of the third level that my team is getting certified on. As of right now, we are 87%. We have an internal, bet going on who is going to get to 100% first. So it's a good exercise with the Rackspace.
That's a great study for any organization wanting to get on to the data literacy journey. But do you think, from your understanding, from your uh, discussion with your customers, do you think data literacy levels are on par these days?
So earlier we had to explain to people why they should think about responsible use of AI, and why should they have a target operated model and governance rules defined. We have to explain the value of that.
Mm.
Today, people judge whether we have the ability. So they already know the value of it. They judge whether we have the ability to do it or not. So it's a huge shift in terms of overall literacy and awareness of it. So I would say, most organizations are aware, or most organizations, if I look at organizations above 300 million or so, more than a couple of thousand people, I think mid-sized and larger organizations, I think they're very aware of what they need to do from an AI perspective.
Great, that's a very positive change. And before I let you go, Hemanta, Just Analytics, the company that you founded in 2011, was acquired by Rackspace in January last year. So it's been almost like 2 years.
Yeah.
How has this helped both the companies? And what are the unique opportunities that both the companies are able to leverage each other's capabilities and move forward?
So when Rackspace acquired Just Analytics, I think for me the advantage is very very clear. We were a relatively small organization focusing on customers primarily in the Asia region, right? And one of my goals through this entire acquisition process was to provide a platform for my team to work with global customers.
Okay.
And this has definitely, the whole acquisition and how we have integrated the teams together has really helped my team to get that global platform where we can work with customers not just in Asia, across Middle East, Europe, and Americas as well. So from that perspective, it has been a really positive thing for my team. I think from Rackspace perspective as well, it has. I believe it has been very. Accretive. I think that's what investment bankers use the term. It has been accretive because we came in from a very um, you know, born in the cloud, um, small, agile, hustling kind of culture, with very strong focus on professional services, project delivery, and innovation in that space. Rackspace has come at it from a perspective of how do we manage, because of the Rackspace legacy and history. There's this huge culture of fanatical support. How do we manage customers and ensure that they can thrive on public cloud? So you have these two kind of aspects of the life cycle of a customer, which really came together very nicely with this acquisition in the data and AI space. So in that sense, I think it has worked out quite well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Hemanta. Great insights and wonderful conversation. Much for taking the time out to talk to me today.
Thanks, Radhika.